Welcome to World History, 9th grade World History. We've just wrapped up a big unit on ancient Mesopotamia, which means the land between two rivers. The rivers we are focusing on are the Tigris to the east and the Euphrates to the west, running in an arc from the Persian Gulf up through Turkey. This area is known as the crossroads of the world because it connects three different continents. Africa, Asia, and Europe are connected there. So a lot of different tribes will move in fighting for these resources. And here's where the only land which could be farmed will grow. Problem with the Tigris and the Euphrates, their flooding is not predictable, as it depends on the amount of snow that has fallen in the mountains of Turkey and when the spring thaw comes. We know a lot about this from the epic poem, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which talks about a large flood, very similar to the flood of Noah in the Old Testament. The Sumerian civilization will learn how to make bricks, to build flood controls. It is how they will try and control the mighty rivers, and it will force them to cooperate with the other tribes in the area. Rulers in Mesopotamia were responsible for building the city defenses, to making sure that things were secure, and for making sure the crops got watered and building irrigation canals. A big difference between the Egyptian pharaoh and the Mesopotamian king is in Mesopotamia, the king was the chief servant of the gods, unlike a pharaoh in Egypt who was actually seen as a living god. All right, the Sumerians were polytheistic, and their version of a pyramid is known as a ziggurat, a stair-shaped temple. To the city, the god lived on top and could walk down these stairs and hang out and commune amongst the people. Also, the higher your social class, the closer on the ziggurat you could get to worshiping your god. But because life in Mesopotamia is so difficult, a lot of warfare, a lot of violence, a lot of flooding, no matter if you were good or bad in ancient Egypt, or ancient Mesopotamia, you went to a dark cave and you ate mud, which is opposite ancient Egypt, where you went to the happy valley of food if you were judged as good. Social class is pretty much the same as it always is, except women in the ancient Middle East had a lot of rights and privilege. The earliest form of writing will be discovered known as Sanskrit, cuneiform, written in about 3200 BC. It was these square-shaped, triangular-shaped objects written on wet clay used to record prayers and rituals. It was very difficult to learn. If you wrote poorly, then you were often beaten. So it took a lot of time. Only 2% of the people learned how to write. So it was a very good job, a way to climb the social ladder. From this, we get a lot of different contributions by the tribes of the ancient Middle East. Sargon the Akkadian will form the world's first empire by combining two different groups of people. Another guy to note is the famous leader of ancient Babylon, Hammurabi, who sets out the first written code of law, 282 laws. This is a crime and this is the punishment. It's codified, it's written down, and it's equal. However, punishments were much harsher for poor people and women than they were rich folks. This is where you get the eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth mentality. Following Hammurabi, we have Nebuchadnezzar, who is a mighty conqueror and who was tolerant of the people that he conquered. You got to keep your own local religion, your own local government, as long as you paid him taxes, acknowledged him as king, and gave him soldiers for his army. He sets the blueprint for later mighty conquerors. Don't destroy everything, because you're going to have to pay to rebuild it, except for the Hebrews, which he could not stand and tried to exterminate. He is also known for building the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Following him, we have the Assyrians, savage warriors from the upper Tigris River Valley. They were led by their king, Big Assurbanipal the Big, Assurbanipal is my big joke, who used terror and intimidation to keep people in line. But he was so brutal and so suppressive, the people quickly rose up and overthrew the Assyrians. But he does, Assurbanipal, build the world's first library in the city of Nineveh, housing the world's volumes of ancient learning. After this, we get the Hittites, who I liken to the orcs from Lord of the Rings. They were big, dumb guys who learned how to make iron weapons, and they hit people. It's what they did. They learned how to smelt iron from ore, which briefly gives them power in the ancient Middle East. Then we have King Darius of Persia, whose empire was so big, he divided it up into 17 districts or satraps and put a regional governor there. The governor looked after the local population and reported to Darius. To speed communication in his empire, he builds the Great Royal Road to encourage trade, travel, and communication. A rider could cover the whole length, 1,600 miles, and in 10 days. And he tried to make everything standard and uniform so everything would be equal in his vast, massive empire. The Phoenicians were the first long-distance travelers. I call them the phone home Phoenicians. And they spread and diffused civilization around the Mediterranean and formed a quick, flexible alphabet, a writing system to record all of their information. This brings us to the ancient Israelites, the Hebrews. While everyone else in the area was polytheistic, the Hebrews bring the concept of monotheism, one all-powerful, all-knowing God who forms a covenant, a contract with his people. You are my chosen people. If you follow my rules, the Ten Commandments and the Torah, I will make you more numerous than the stars in the skies and the sands on the seashore. But you got to believe in me. And when the people began to stray, he sent powerful prophets, inspired messengers to bring people back to God. The first long-lasting look at monotheism, and it spurns two other great monotheistic religions on top of Judaism is Christianity. Top of Christianity is Islam. The foundation, everything traces its roots back to ancient Judaism. And the Sumerians, talk about them with their ziggurats and things, based their number system on 60, giving us the wheeled chariot, the 360-degree circle, the 60-second minute, and the 60-minute hour. They were also pioneers in algebra and geometry. That is a very quick look at ancient Mesopotamia. Check it out, and please do well on the test.